People say every neighborhood has one person who thinks they run the world, but in Willow Creek, that person wasn't just loud. She had a crown she never earned. Her name was Karen Whitfield. She ran the HOA like it was her personal kingdom. She wrote fines with the enthusiasm of someone signing autographs. She patrolled the street with a clipboard, a camera, and a smile that never reached the eyes. But this story isn't about her at her worst. It's about her moment of downfall, a moment that began the day Daniel and Maria moved in. The narrator, Daniel, was a quiet man, a builder, a fixer, someone who believed in minding his own business. His wife, Maria, was the opposite, warm, social, a person who baked cookies for neighbors she didn't know yet. Together, they thought they found their peaceful forever home, but peace doesn't exist where people like Karen breathe. It began small, a warning notice for having a non-standard mailbox, then a fine for parking too close to the curb, then another for excessive plant growth, referring to Maria's lavender bushes that were barely 6 inches tall. At first, Daniel laughed. "We'll sort it out," he said, but Karen didn't want things sorted out. She wanted obedience, submission, control, and the moment Maria challenged her at an HOA meeting politely, firmly, kindly, Karen declared war. "Rules exist for a reason, dear," she said with a smile that was anything but friendly. "Maybe you're just not used to living somewhere respectable." Gasps filled the room. Maria's eyes dropped. Daniel's fists clenched. That night, he told his wife, "I won't let her talk to you like that again." He meant it, but Karen, she had no idea who she was provoking, because the same man she was picking a fight with was the same man who kept every receipt, recorded every encounter, and quietly built a real case for HOA abuse, fraud, and harassment. And one cold Thursday morning, they were all called to court. None of them expected what would happen inside that courtroom, especially not Karen. The courtroom was quiet, almost cold, the kind of cold that makes even innocent people feel guilty. Karen strutted in wearing a bright red blazer and sunglasses like she thought paparazzi were waiting outside. Maria sat beside Daniel, hands trembling slightly, though she kept a brave smile. Judge Harris, a calm man in his 60s, adjusted his glasses. "Let's begin," he said. The case was simple. Daniel had filed a complaint against the HOA for harassment and abuse of authority. But Karen arrived ready for war. "Your Honor," she said, standing before she was even called on, "these people are unstable homeowners who don't respect community standards. They have been causing problems since the day they arrived, Mrs. Whitfield." Judge Harris interrupted. "You will speak when I address you." She huffed, sat, folded her arms like a child denied candy. As the testimonies began, Karen repeatedly interrupted, rolled her eyes, scoffed loudly, small things that chipped away at the judge's patience. But Daniel remained composed, steady, prepared. He presented photos of neighbors breaking the same rules without consequences, copies of altered HOA documents, audio clips of Karen insulting residents. The courtroom murmured. Karen's smile faltered, but she wasn't done. When Maria spoke, her voice wavered. "Your Honor, she called me things I won't repeat here. She came to our door at midnight banging and shouting. She left threatening notes. I'm not the only one she's done this to." Karen slammed her hand on the table. "Lies, all lies." Judge Harris shot her a look that could freeze fire. "Mrs. Whitfield, sit down," but she didn't. She stepped toward Maria, one hand raised, face red with fury. "You little slap." The sound echoed so loudly the room went silent for a full second. Maria gasped. Daniel stood so fast his chair toppled over. The bailiff lunged forward. Gasps erupted everywhere. Judge Harris rose from his seat, his voice thunderous. "Mrs. Whitfield, stop." But it was too late. Karen's hand had struck, and the courtroom had witnessed everything. And in that moment, that single electric moment, the judge's jaw tightened, because Karen hadn't just broken decorum. She had broken law. Everything changed in that single slap. "Bailiff, detain her." Judge Harris's voice shook the air. The bailiff grabbed Karen by the arms, but she fought like a cat cornered. "Get off me. I didn't do anything. She provoked me. This is ridiculous. Mrs. Whitfield." The judge said, "You have committed assault inside a courtroom. Do you understand the severity?" She screamed. "You don't scare me. None of you do. I argue in my community." Judge Harris stared at her, hard, calculating, and then something no one expected happened. The judge walked down from the bench and pointed at the large wooden chair beside him, the judge's ceremonial seat used during disciplinary reviews. "Bailiff," he said, "sit her there." Karen froze. "What? No, that's the judge's seat. You can't. It is not a position of honor today," he said, It is a position of judgment, and today you will sit in it. She shook her head violently. I won't sit there. I won't, but the bailiff forced her into the chair, and the moment she sat, something broke in her posture, in her defiance, in her voice. It was the first time Karen looked small. Judge Harris stood before her like a storm. Look around you, Mrs. Whitfield. The community you bullied, neighbors you intimidated, the people you harmed, they are all here, and they're watching. Today, you face accountability. Her lip trembled. No, this isn't happening. You have abused authority, manipulated documents, harassed residents, and now you've committed assault in front of an entire courtroom. He paused. Do you understand why you are sitting where I usually sit? She didn't answer. Daniel watched. Maria held his hand tightly. Judge Harris leaned forward. This is what power feels like when it turns into cruelty. And this, he gestured at the chair, is where cruelty ends. And for the first time, Karen had no words, only tears. The hearing resumed with Karen sitting in that chair, trembling, humiliated. Every lie she had told, every rule she twisted, every neighbor she tormented, it all surfaced. Daniel presented one last piece of evidence, a flash drive. On it, a recording of Karen bragging to a friend. People in this neighborhood are sheep. I run that place. They're all too scared to fight me. The courtroom reacted like a wave. Karen covered her face. She muttered, "Stop, please stop." Judge Harris closed his eyes. When he looked up, the decision was already written on his face. Mrs. Whitfield, he said slowly, I hereby strip you of all HOA authority effective immediately. Karen sobbed. You will pay a fine for falsifying documents. You will pay restitution to the residents you harmed, and you will face charges for assaulting Mrs. Ramirez in this courtroom. Maria inhaled sharply. Karen looked like the floor had opened beneath her. And the judge added, you are permanently banned from serving in any position of authority within Willow Creek or any HOA association in this county. A gasp. A murmur. A lifetime ban. Karen whispered, barely audible, my life is ruined. Daniel whispered back, no. It's just honest for the first time. Karen looked at him with a mixture of bitterness and something she had never shown before. Fear. The courthouse steps felt warmer than the courtroom, like the air itself approved of what had happened. Maria leaned into Daniel. You did it. She whispered, no. He said, brushing her hair back gently, we did it. Together, behind them, the bailiff escorted Karen out the side door. No red blazer, no sunglasses, no clipboard, no crown. Just a woman who learned that power without compassion isn't strength, it's sickness. Neighbors approached Daniel and Maria. You spoke for all of us. Thank you for standing up to her. You finally ended it. Maria smiled softly. We just wanted peace. And as they walked toward their car, sunlight spilling over the pavement, Daniel felt something lift, a weight he didn't know he was carrying. Justice didn't always roar. Sometimes it whispered. Sometimes it sat a tyrant in a throne meant for truth, and let her see herself clearly for the first time. Before starting the engine, Daniel looked into the camera of his imagination the way a storyteller looks at the world. And he asked, what would you have done if someone slapped the person you love right there in court? He exhaled. If this story moved you, don't forget to share it, and subscribe for more real stories like this one, because no matter how long it takes, truth always finds its way out.